new pictures of a sunken shipwreck, and it's none other than HMS Terror.
In the crushing dark of the Arctic seabed, a robot submarine found something impossible. Two ships, lost for 170 years, sitting upright as if they had just been parked. These were the legendary Franklin ships, HMS Erebus and Terror. The world expected to find shattered wrecks, but what they saw was an underwater ghost story.
I can't truly imagine how my staff felt at the moment when they realized on the screen of the side scan sonar.
The mission was to solve the mystery of the lost expedition, but the footage the submersible sent back revealed a new, more terrifying puzzle that makes the crew's disappearance even more disturbing than we ever thought. Perfectly preserved nightmare. For more than a century and a half, the story of the Franklin expedition was one of ghosts and guesses. 129 men, led by Sir John Franklin, sailed into the Canadian Arctic in 1845 aboard two state-of-the-art ships, the HMS Erebus and HMS Terror. Their mission? To finally chart the elusive Northwest Passage. They were last seen by whalers that summer, and then they vanished. Utterly and completely. For decades, the world wondered what happened. Many people are crazy about this mystery, but the truth was locked away, preserved in a deep, dark, and unimaginably cold tomb. The most shocking fact is that when these tombs were finally found, they weren't the mangled wrecks everyone expected. They were something else entirely. You see, in 2014, after a search that spanned generations, the wreck of HMS Erebus was discovered in just 36 feet of water. It was an incredible find, but it was the exploration that truly sent shivers down the spines of archaeologists. Parks Canada sent down a remotely operated vehicle, a small submersible that could fit through the ship's hatches and explore its haunted interior. The footage it sent back was breathtaking. The water was so cold, hovering just below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, that it had preserved the ship in a way no one thought possible. It wasn't a wreck, it was a time capsule. As the sub's lights pierced the gloom, they revealed a world frozen in its final moments. Wooden planks, caulking, even the copper sheathing on the hull were largely intact. The thing nobody tells you is just how personal the discoveries were. The ROV glided into the ship's mess hall, and there, sitting in storage chests, were plates and platters, neatly stacked and waiting for a meal that would never be served. Glass bottles, some still corked with wine or medicine inside, sat on shelves as if the ship's steward had just placed them there. What many overlooked in the excitement of the discovery was the sheer eeriness of it all. This wasn't a scene of destruction, it was a scene of sudden, silent departure. The true wow factor came when the sub navigated its way to the stern towards the officers' quarters. It found Captain Franklin's cabin. Inside, silt covered everything, but the outlines of a life abruptly ended were unmistakable. A writing desk with closed drawers, map cabinets, and even scientific instruments like a parallel rule and a thermometer were found, resting in the dark. These men were at the cutting edge of science and exploration, equipped with a 3-year supply of preserved foods and even a steam engine. Their ships were floating fortresses designed to conquer the ice. Yet here it was, abandoned on the sea floor. The submersible found no human remains inside, only the ghosts of the lives they lived. The crew was simply gone. The discovery of the second ship, HMS Terror, in 2016 was even more stunning. It lay deeper at about 80 feet and was in even better condition. To put it mildly, it was an underwater miracle. Its window panes were still intact. The ship's bell was in place. The ROV swam down a hallway, past closed cabin doors, and into the room of Captain Francis Crozier. There, perfectly preserved in the silt, were his map cabinets, tripods for his instruments, and boxes that likely hold his handwritten logs and charts. These documents are the holy grail of this mystery, and they are sitting there waiting to be read. But not all things are what they seem. This pristine condition tells a terrifying story. It means the ships weren't crushed by ice or sunk in a storm. They were floating and fully functional when the men left them. Something drove them out onto the desolate, frozen landscape to face a fate far worse than going down with their ship. What the submersible saw wasn't a monster, it was the chilling silence of a great mystery. Franklin's final secret. The pristine ships sitting on the ocean floor are only the first part of this horrifying puzzle. What the submersible saw was the before. The after is a story written in bones and whispered in Inuit legends for over 100 years. You see, while the ships tell a story of order, the land tells a story of chaos and desperation. After abandoning the Erebus and Terror, the surviving crew members made a desperate trek south across the barren ice of King William Island. Their goal was a trading post hundreds of miles away. They would never make it. The thing nobody tells you about the Franklin expedition is that the crew was likely doomed before they even stepped onto the ice. Modern analysis of the few remains that have been found over the years tells a grim story. Many of the men were suffering from severe lead poisoning. The most popular theory is that it came from the thousands of tins of canned food they had brought with them, which were shoddily soldered with lead. This lead would have leached into their food, causing not just physical weakness, but paranoia, confusion, and even madness. They weren't just starving, they were losing their minds. And you can see this everywhere in the accounts from the time. Inuit hunters, whose oral traditions were dismissed by the British for decades, told stories of meeting strange, gaunt white men on the ice. They described them as thin, hard-faced, and acting strangely. Some were dragging heavy sleds loaded with bizarre items they didn't need, like silver cutlery and heavy books, while leaving behind essential survival gear. This wasn't the behavior of disciplined Royal Navy sailors, it was the behavior of men whose judgment had been clouded by poison and desperation. Then there is the darkest secret of all. What many overlooked in the initial searches were the subtle marks on the bones found scattered across the island. In the 1990s, forensic anthropologists examining these remains found something horrifying: cut marks. Knife marks on the bones were consistent with defleshing. The shocking fact is, these men, driven by starvation and madness, resorted to the ultimate taboo to survive. They turned on their fallen comrades in a desperate attempt to stay alive, a detail so grim that Victorian society refused to believe it for years. The picture becomes clearer and far more terrifying. Imagine these men, weakened by scurvy, their minds twisted by lead poisoning, stumbling across a frozen hellscape. The sun glares off the endless white ice. They are hundreds of miles from anywhere, and their numbers are dwindling one by one. The order and discipline of the Royal Navy, represented by those pristine ships, had completely broken down. It was replaced by a brutal, primal fight for survival. This wasn't just a failed expedition, it was a complete descent into a frozen nightmare, a slow-motion disaster that unfolded over months or even years. The men didn't just perish from the cold, they were consumed by it, by illness, and ultimately by each other. The ghost ships were their last connection to home, and they left them to face this. The ice-cold case. The search for the Franklin ships became one of the biggest obsessions of the 19th century. To put it mildly, many people were crazy about finding them. Lady Jane Franklin, Sir John's determined wife, poured her fortune into funding rescue missions. The British Admiralty sent out ship after ship. America got involved. In total, dozens of expeditions sailed into the Arctic, hoping to find survivors or, at the very least, an answer. They found scattered relics, a spoon here, a boot there, and the horrifying graves of a few crew members on a desolate beach. But the ships, the epicenters of the disaster, remained elusive. For over 150 years, the search continued on and off, becoming the world's longest and most expensive maritime search. The thing nobody tells you is that it turned into a billion-dollar hunt involving everything from 19th century sailing sloops to modern icebreakers, sonar equipment, and helicopters. Year after year, search teams would scan the seafloor, battling shifting ice and brutal weather conditions. They found nothing. The Arctic, it seemed, was determined to keep its secrets. But not all things are what they seem. While modern technology was failing, the key to the mystery was waiting in the stories of the local Inuit people. For generations, Inuit oral history had preserved accounts of seeing one of Franklin's great ships locked in the ice and of finding items from the crew. What many overlooked was the incredible accuracy of these stories. The most shocking fact is that for more than a century, these accounts were largely ignored by Western searchers. That all changed in 2014. The massive multi-year search was getting nowhere. But then a government historian named Louis Kamukik, who had spent his life gathering the oral histories of his Inuit elders, directed the search team to an area based on those old stories. Specifically, an account passed down from an Inuit hunter who had seen a ship in the ice a long, long time ago. The modern survey ships moved to that area, and within days, their sonar lit up with a clear image from the seabed. It was HMS Erebus. After 170 years, the secret was unlocked, not just by technology, but by listening. The discovery of HMS Terror was even more incredible. 2 years later, an Inuit hunter and park ranger named Sammy Kogvik was on a boat when he spotted a large piece of wood sticking out of the water in a place named Terror Bay, a place that wasn't on the official search grid. He remembered a story his father told him about finding a piece of a big ship there. He took a picture of the object, and because of his tip, the search team moved their equipment to Terror Bay. On the very first pass with the sonar, they found it. HMS Terror, sitting almost perfectly preserved, miles from where everyone thought it would be. The hunt that had stumped the world's best technology for over a century was solved twice because of ancient knowledge passed down through generations. The ships were found, but this only opened up a new, deeper chapter of the mystery. Buried in the silt. So, a deep-sea submersible explored the Franklin ships, and what they saw was terrifying. But the terror wasn't a curse or a sea monster. The real terror is the silence. It's the sight of those perfectly preserved cabins, frozen in the last moments of a functioning naval expedition. It's the chilling contrast between the orderly ships and the absolute chaos that consumed the crew. People watching this are looking for a mystery, and the deeper we go, the more questions arise. Are we missing a key detail? Did this all just happen overnight? The thing is, we now know what happened. The ships got stuck, and the men perished from a combination of starvation, disease, lead poisoning, and desperate acts of survival. But the biggest question remains, why? Why did Captain Crozier, an experienced Arctic veteran, order the abandonment of two perfectly good ships? The discovery of HMS Terror, so far south of where it was last seen, suggests something truly bizarre happened. Some experts now believe that after being abandoned, the empty HMS Terror was crewed by a small, desperate party of survivors who tried to sail it out, only to fail one last time. The most shocking fact is that the final answers are likely still down there, buried in the silt. The submersible explorations have been methodical but painstakingly slow. Archaeologists have to be incredibly careful not to disturb the fragile sites. They've recovered hundreds of artifacts, epaulets from a uniform, ceramic jars, a leather book cover, but they have yet to reach the most crucial items. Somewhere in Captain Crozier's cabin, locked in those wooden cabinets, could be the ship's logs. His final reports, the last words of the Franklin expedition. You have to wonder, what will those papers say? Will they confirm the stories of madness and desperation, with a captain's log detailing a slow descent into chaos? Or will they reveal a final, unforeseen disaster that pushed the men over the edge? Perhaps the steam engine failed at a critical moment, trapping them in the ice. Maybe a fire broke out below deck, filling the ship with toxic smoke, or a disease spread through the crew far faster than anyone imagined. The thing is, we're looking at a scene that has been perfectly preserved, sealed away from the world for 170 years. The answers aren't just in history books. They're in a physical place, waiting inside a waterlogged chest. The most shocking fact is that modern technology is about to break that seal. A robot's claw might be the key to gently opening a drawer and revealing the final words of men who thought they were lost to time. Every new dive brings us closer. But for now, the ships and their silent crews keep their final, chilling secrets locked in the crushing dark of the abyss. So, the mystery isn't over. Was it just a tragic series of mistakes, or is there a final, shocking secret still buried in the ice? Let us know what you think below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into the unknown.